I think for me, let's start with this commission, the Zondo Commission. Until we have successful prosecutions, I will take it serious. But for now, for me, it looks like a factional playground commission. Yeah. Those who have lost the previous elective conference are the ones that are being painted to be the devils of the world.
Hi everyone, welcome to Izolami. My name is Natasha.
And my name is Kumo.
And today we're in a different location and we're recording our last episode for 2020 on African politics. We are joined by Bogosi.
Hi, I'm Bogosi from EasyPolitics, South Africa.
And he's my brother.
Family
So
vibes.
interesting. So my very favorite question that I always ask all of our guests, please introduce yourself, who you are, what you are passionate about, and what is your body of work.
I'm Bogosi, as I said, from EasyPolitics, South Africa. My passion is African politics, or politics in general. My other passion of mine is dogs. My body of work is both in entrepreneurship, in politics, and in animal improvement.
Okay. So it's very strange for us to be talking about politics in December, right? But there were so many things that are happening in our environment with the democratic elections process happening in America and all other processes. We thought it would be a great way to end the year so that people go into a new understanding as we go into a new year about politics and where they want to place with stuff. So the climate of African politics and governance in South Africa and in Africa as a whole, what does it look like? Do we practice democracy? Like, I know we call ourselves democratic states, but what is democracy, and do we practice the true principles of democracy when we're voting? And what does efficient governance look like within Africa? Is there a country that we can look to and be like, they are doing it perfectly?
Look, I think the climax of African politics has been very volatile since the 19th century. They were made worse by a conference in 1884 called the Conference of Africa, but people know it as the Berlin Conference, where artificial lines were drawn up, states were created. One morning you wake up, police Zimbabwe, the next day you are actually in South Africa. So they've been volatile since then. They were made volatile more by that incident. And coming into the 19th century, coming to the 20th century, we had a wave of African nationalism. And that wave of African nationalism obviously made it more volatile because now we've got two opposite sides. One want to remain colonialist, the other wants freedom. So it's always been volatile. Democracy is a very difficult question. Do we practice democracy? Yes, we try and practice a form of democracy called Western democracy. Western democracy in the sense that every 5 years we go and vote. We don't know if they're free and fair. There's a story for another day. And so in terms of ticking boxes of Western democracy, I would say 70% of African states do practice a certain level of Western democracy. The problem with governance is the biggest mistake that we make in terms of governance. People want to equivocate governance with democracy, and you'll find a state like China under the CPC, Chinese Communist Party, which is in essence a totalitarian system, but governance is largely beautiful in China. Yes, you don't go and vote, but you have a job, systems are working, healthcare is working. In Africa, another country that is actually doing well in terms of governance is a country called Rwanda, led by a guy called Paul Kagame. Is Rwanda democratic? People will say no. The last elections, Paul Kagame won 90% of the votes. people are saying, no, but it can't be a democratic system where one person wins 90% of their vote. You know? So Rwanda for me is a country which I look at now in terms of Africa for good governance. They said when you look for good governance in the Western way, you look at transparency. Are African nations transparent? Leadership of African nations, are they transparent?
No.
Accountability, is there accountability? Go to accountability. When you eat money there, will people make you account? And if they do make you account, will you account? Is it consensus based? Sorry, is it consensus based? Because good governance has to talk about consensus based. You know, is it responsiveness? Are these countries responding to challenges faced by the youth? Because you must also remember that Africa is in a very beautiful position at this time in the world because we've got the youngest population.
Yeah.
So are there things that are done by leadership responding to the challenges of the youth? So when you look at governance, we need to look at those elements holistically.
Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting that we talk about accountability and transparency in relation to what makes good governance within the Western sense. And I think we'll get back to so, you know, do we adopt African governance and what does it actually look like a bit later on in the conversation? When we talk about accountability, I mean, we've seen now with the current, you know, issues that have been happening around the PPE and, you know, the commission of inquiries that's been happening. Are we not moving into a space where we are holding our government accountable? And are they not taking strides themselves to try and be more transparent in how they're handling issues like corruption, etc.?
I think for me, let's start with this commission, you know, the Zondo Commission. Until we have successful prosecutions, I will take it serious. But for now, for me, it looks like a factional playground commission. Yeah. Those who have lost the previous elective conference are the ones that are being painted to be the devils of the world. And at what expense? I mean, the Zondo Commission to date has spent close to R1 billion.
Yeah.
Can't that R1 billion be often youth entrepreneurship? Or with that R1 billion, so is it we catch these people, we might not even prosecute them, spend R1 billion, but we still have structural challenges.
100%.
With the PPEs, those who are being arrested, those who are being charged, seem to be people who've got linkages to the other faction. So the other faction people, are they clean?
Yeah. So it's all a facade.
I genuinely think so.
That they're trying
I genuinely think so. You must remember, the head of state came in with that whole ticket of cleaning, you know. And the head of state, I feel, needs to appease the minority. The minority love these kind of things. Yes, he's dealing with corruption, you know. He's really dealing with corruption. Look what he's doing, you know.
Yeah.
So you have to do that to make them smile so that they can nicely shop in Hyde Park and become happy, you know. Because himself, if he is so anti-corrupt, wants to fight the system, why isn't he open with who funded his campaign?
Sure, deep questions.
Speaking of this state, the leader of the state, what do you think are qualities that make up a great leader from an African perspective, not a Western perspective? Do you think our president is a great leader? That would be a great question. Do you think our president is a great leader?
I think,
because we all seem to love him.
well, we all seem to love
didn't
him.
like that previous one.
Yeah? Yes, I mean the previous one did not tick the balance, the boxes of what a president must be. You know,
He was charismatic.
Guy from Ghana, I can see him. So what? The world does not want that. Seeing you've got lots of wives. No, I think the characteristics that you need to be a good leader. Number one, you must be strong. President Mbeki was a very strong man.
Strong in what sense?
Strong in decision making and sticking to the decisions.
Sure.
sometimes those decisions compromised him in terms of his presidency, but when he made a decision, President Mbeki, he kept by it. I do not think the president that we have is a strong person in terms of decision making, and this is not in his capacity. And I'm telling you about his capacity as the president of the ruling party. I do not think he's a strong person.
Okay.
In the state, I've not seen that yet. I think he's been president for 2 years. There's still time. He's loved. He is loved, and one of the great African presidents of the past, I don't remember his name exactly, once said that you must be very careful if you're loved by a certain type of people when you're an African. It's very dangerous. So let's give him time. I think the country will be better than the wasted 9 years of which he was part of. They are wasted 9 years. Everybody's saying that, but he was the deputy president for those wasted 9 years. So do we take him out? And as deputy president, he's the head of government business. And as the head of government business, we saw SOEs going very bad in those 9 years of wasted years.
And now he's in power and we're trying to deal with the same SOEs.
Yes, that he's the president. I get the president, he ruined everything.
So then, who looks like they could have those future qualities? And I'm talking about people who could possibly be president, hopefully in their 40s. Not wait till you're
in South Africa or
retirement age. In South Africa.
Yeah. Is there anyone comparable or better?
Look, there's a person that I'm liking the way she thinks.
Oh, she?
Yes. I never actually liked her politically a couple of years ago, but her thinking has really changed. The person is called Lindwe Mazibuko. She's. I think she's one for the future. You know.
Yeah.
I genuinely think she is one. If in a correct political stable, could actually become a good leader.
Yeah.
So that's one person that comes in mind.
But I think when we talk about leadership, it's difficult for us to almost remove the gender aspect of it, right? On what makes a good leader. Considering now, if we look over like in the States, when Biden won the whole Camilla, it's almost like it became a Camilla campaign.
Yes.
So everyone was talking about Camilla being the first woman of color as well to be vice president. If Lindiwe, if you're saying that she's one of your favorite at this point in time, would we be ready? Or are we ever going to be ready for like a female president in our lifetime?
I think so. There's a name that pops up before, but she's old now. I think Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma would have made a good female president. Judging by the fact that Nkosazana was the head of the African Union for 4 or 5 years, So I think the experience that she got being the head of 52 African states is very important, But in our lifetime, we will get a woman president, hopefully. Problem with African politics or generally politics is very patriarchal. It's a very man-centered system.
Yeah.
So the woman must be a deputy first, and after being a deputy, she must then become a president.
Yeah. So if we move over to just outside of South Africa, talking about Africa in general and the influence of superpowers, of the politics that happens overseas, and how we then run our governments, etc. Do they really have an influence on the type of politics that we decide to play home ground? So what's happening with the Biden campaign, and even if we look when Trump was also running, does that influence the type of politics that we see our leadership playing at?
Yes, the Western colonizers will always have their hand in internal matters of Africa. The colonizer will always want to have control of Africa. That is why the colonizer is even fighting China, because China also wants to play. And the colonizers are saying, Africa is ours. you know.
Yeah.
So you'll always have that. You'll always have that thing. Coming to talk about that, there was when the then Organization of African Unity, OAU, was formed 1963. There were 32 speeches, and your viewers must go check those. Young Africans must go read those speeches. But there are two that come into mind now. The biggest debate there of Ngwane Nkrumah and of Julius Mzee Nyerere, to talk about what you're saying. What was they were debating this similar thing but not the same. Ngwane Nkrumah was saying in 1963 that, gentlemen, let us move fast and not be comfortable in our little nation states and create a United States of Africa. Because if you have the United States of Africa, you've got one government, got ministers everywhere, you cannot, it is more harder for the colonialists to divide you, to say these are Anglophone, these are Francophone, On the other hand, Julius Nyerere was saying, let us build it brick by brick, regional basis. You have your SADC, you have your ECOWAS, and then those regional blocks have been set, we integrate. And so that was going to help us to fight the influence of foreign politics, especially of England and of France, because they are still the ones that are largely controlling and influencing our politics in South Africa. Every party in Africa that is against, for example, the former liberators, right, are all funded from England's colonies are all funded in London. Well, why is that? Those who hate the ones are in Paris. Why is that? So there'll always be. Thomas Sankara, one of the youngest African presidents, once said, "Who feeds you controls you."
That is very
So
true.
then, would that be manageable if we were all to have one kind of, one president?
United Africa.
A united Africa.
It's very difficult. Let me tell you why. I'm a South African, and I'm conditioned to say that this is Malawian, this is Mozambican, this is, I'm conditioned. And if they come here, it's a problem, But I look at China. China has 1.5 billion. They've got one president, Xi Jinping. India has 1.3 billion people, one president, one prime minister, Singh. Is it Singh? Forgot him. Modi. Africa has 1.1 million people. We've got 52 presidents. So I don't know how the model would work. I'm not saying it will work, but I'm saying, it's something. America has 320 million people. They've got one president.
I guess, the point that you raised to say that we've been conditioned to essentially see ourselves as different from each other, and I think that's what stops us. I mean, even within South Africa, the whole tribalistic nature of ourselves stops us from being a great nation, greater, right? I think that's it. So in a perfect world, or not perfect, but like 5 years from now, what are your hopes for South Africa and for Africa as a continent in terms of, politics, governance, and where we should be striving towards?
You see, for South Africa, for one, I am seeing the death of youth politics.
That's a sad projection.
No, the youth politics is dead. Why I'm saying youth politics is dead is that the only person I can think of that is young in politics is Julius Malema and the executive of the EFF. Right? The EFF is a young, vibrant party. The biggest challenge of the EFF is getting those youth to go vote. It's the biggest challenge of the EFF. So you can't have in one party in one country that is largely youth based. Which other is there any other? ZANU PF is old people. MDC is at a very struggling point at this point, so it's as good as
Non-existent.
It's as good as non-existent. You go to Nigeria, the most populous state in Africa. The president is 80 something, newly elected last year. So there is no youth politics in Africa, and it is sad because Africa was liberated by young people. If you think about it, the people who were the first presidents in 1960, those were young men. Those were Mandela was in his 40s when he was sentenced to life. Mugabe was in his 40s, 50s when they started the Bush War with Rhodesia. So these were young people. We do not see it now. With governance, my projection, governance. There's a beautiful book called The Governance of China. It was released in 2012 by the Premier of China, and it highlights how they have, in the last 30 years, they have built governance in China. And what you see is that great nations teach governance. Yes, you are part of a political party, you are groomed, and from that you either go to a law school or a school of governance and be taught structural things that have to do with governance. We'll never get large-scale success because Bogosi is the loudmouth there and he can mobilize people, and then Bogosi must bar. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, for sure.
You had something else to add?
Yeah, no, it was around the topic of saying, the youth are no longer participating,
yes,
in issues of government, and that the early presidents were young, the people that fought for liberation. But I mean, I think an argument can be made to say because they did not want to let go of that power.
Yeah. I
mean, you're in governance for 20-something, 30-something years.
And there's benefits.
People start to lose hope, right? And I think about, like in Zim, only now are people becoming more brazen to want to protest. But I think in Zim, we've never had a culture of wanting to protest because, like, no one wants to be on the brink of a civil war. Like, it's just not, it's not a thing that we want to participate in, right?
Yes.
But you see the African leadership has retained their power and people start to lose hope. So is it that the youth don't want to participate, or they've just become despondent?
I think one, they've become despondent. I think two, they are distracted by a false life of social media, of Instagram. You'd rather just do those and than be part of
be Twitter warriors.
Be Twitter warriors, than the EFF will win an election on Twitter tomorrow. Tomorrow they'll win an election and have a 2/3 majority on Twitter. No, it's a fact. They've got true. Supporters there.
Yeah.
So we've largely grown despondent also because you see, Southern Africa. Give you two examples of South Africa and Zimbabwe. Southern Africa had a very violent system. The whites in Rhodesia were very violent. The whites in South Africa were very violent.
Yeah.
And so, as much as these people that we celebrate who are freedom fighters, they also learned that violence from those people, and they used violence to get those people out. So for them to stick in power, they'll exert their violence to those people.
Yes.
So that is why maybe largely we've grown despondent of politics. But also, it's very deep, this issue of violence. But also, I don't see passion amongst young South Africans to join political parties and to try and change the system within politics, because the only way in South Africa you'll change politics is through political parties. It's designed that way. Yes, they say now independence, you can say who's going to independence, our guy. You need to go into a political party and try and exact change within the political party for the system to be better in South Africa.
Yeah.
So is that the solution, that you would tell young people on how they would actively participate in politics and have an opinion in their own country? Because I feel like we have lack of confidence and feel like you would be heard.
Yes.
So do I have to be part of a specific political party so that I can be able to factor? Is that how I can participate in the political climate as a young person?
Not really. Not really. Remember, in the 80s, there was a big formation, which was not necessarily a party, called the UDF. You know, the UDF was massive. What about the 70s? In the 70s, we had BMC, Black Consciousness Movement. It was massive, you know. It was a youth organization.
Yeah.
You are into UDF was also largely a youth organization, you know. So it does not have to be in the formal political sense, but we can have those type of structures, you know. Those, I mean, I think Muruti Maimani, what's his thing?
It's an English phrase, ne?
Save, not the save, they say what? Something, you know. And he's saying it's not a political party, but it's a movement, you know. So that maybe, you know, can be better, you know. I'm not saying he's per se, but you know.
Yeah.
It's in those type of situations.
Yeah. Yeah, so much that we can still do, I think, as the youth. Mobilize each other, educate each other, because I think that's also what separates us from wanting to participate. Like being active and just being passive about it is there's always that gap of like, do I know enough also to want to participate? Because if you look at the people that are really the loudest, you know, they are almost seen as radical in a sense, and like we almost try to remove ourselves. And I think maybe we could talk about that as a topic of being colonized and wanting to please certain people. That we don't want to attach ourselves to people that are on this drive to want to educate, mobilize, etc., because we don't want to be associated with being radical potentially.
Because if you associate yourself with radical people, you are likely to lose the favors of owners of capital and owners of resources.
Yes.
You see?
Yeah.
So I cannot be hired by ABSA and then I say no, but ABSA must pay because of the 1980s and what. Then when I go to work the next day, manager said, no, chief, you are no chief, no chief, come on, you know. So that is why we can't be radical.
So maybe in closing, next year we have, is it the municipal election?
Yes, we're actually having this municipal elections next year. It's the 20th anniversary of a free and democratic local government.
So I personally never knew the importance of municipal elections. I mean, when I was 18, no one sat me down, including you, to tell me this is how municipalities work and this is their importance, right? And I think we're largely very despondent about municipalities. Yes, now we're seeing them falling apart and we read about them in the news, but only now am I realizing that they might actually be something important about people, because there's a lot of young people, right? And I don't think a lot of us really care about municipal elections.
Yeah.
So what is the importance of us actually going out next year and voting? What is the impact of that?
Look,
we didn't have electricity and water.
Let's start here. Nobody lives at national government. National government is in Victoria. Each and every South African citizen lives within a province, right?
Yeah.
Each and every South African either lives in a district municipality or a metro municipality. So each and every one of us lives in municipal jurisdiction. Municipality is the closest form of government to citizens in South Africa. When citizens protest, right? When I was at in government, municipalities would call and say, no, but people are protesting a competency which is your competency. You know, people don't know that. Don't know that this competency is province. When they want houses, they go to the municipality. When they want what, they go to the municipality. So that is the closest form of government. That is the government that must actually be the best run out of all the three. So people must go out, go and vote for a better system of local government, for better leaders in local government.
Because if local government is working, possibly...
If local government is working, all these others will... Because national government works, provincial government largely works. Third one, for me, I think it's a problem.
So go out and vote, guys.
Yes, go out and vote. Get to know your councillor. Ask your councillor
The
tough questions. You know, go vote.
Hold them accountable. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. Surely, I'm definitely enlightened because politics is also not my strongest, but I have myself to blame. But thank you so much for your time, Bogosi. This was really an encouraging conversation. I think people can also follow you on EasyPolitics, just to keep up to date with all things politics. So this is our last episode. So thank you so much, guys, for the year. And we will be back again next year. Have a great festive. Please stay safe.
Yes, be safe. Wear your masks. You know, have a great time this festive season, and we'll see you guys next year.
And don't drink and drive.
Yes.
Yeah, never drink and drive.
Never.
Bye, guys.
Bye.